The Galactic Defense Academy's training grounds stretched across 3 square kilometers of reinforced durasteel, designed to withstand the most aggressive species in known space. Commander Jara stood at the observation deck, watching the newest batch of Velkari cadets run through their formation drills. The reptilian warriors moved with predatory grace, their scales glinting under the artificial sun, all except one, Kivran, barely into his second molt, stumbled out of formation for the 3rd time that morning. The drill sergeant, a towering Velkari veteran named Thros, released a guttural hiss that made the other cadets freeze. "Kivran, you dishonor your clutch." 20 more cycles around the perimeter. The young cub's head dropped, his amber eyes dulling with shame. Around him, the other cadets maintained their rigid stances. But Jara could see the slight tremors in their tails, suppressed laughter, or perhaps relief that they weren't the ones being singled out. Jara had seen this scenario play out 1,000 times across a dozen species. The Velkari were apex predators on their homeworld, bred for combat and hierarchy. Their military culture demanded perfection from hatchlings barely old enough to regulate their own body temperature. It was effective. The Velkari produced some of the finest soldiers in the galaxy, but it was also brutal. She made her way down to the training grounds, her boots clicking against the metal stairs. The sound drew every eye in the formation. Humans were still relatively new to the Galactic Defense Force, their species having achieved faster-than-light travel only 40 standard years ago. But in that short time, they'd earned a reputation that made even the Velkari wary. Humans were unpredictable. Commander Jara, Thros acknowledged, his inner eyelids flickering in what passed for a Velkari salute. "We did not expect you this cycle." "Just observing, Sergeant." Jara's voice carried across the training ground with practiced ease. "Continue your drill." Thros's tail lashed once, irritation, but he complied. Formation. Defensive pattern Gamma 7. The cadets moved in perfect synchronization, their bodies flowing through the complex maneuver like a school of predatory fish, all except Kivran, who lagged a half-second behind, his smaller frame struggling to keep pace with his clutchmates. Jara watched the cub's growing frustration. His claws extended and retracted repeatedly, a nervous tic that would get him killed in real combat. The other cadets maintained their focus, but she could sense their awareness of his failure. Pack animals, even reptilian ones, always knew when one of their own was faltering. The drill continued for another 20 minutes. Kivran fell out of formation twice more, each time earning a harsher rebuke from Thros. By the end, the cub's scales had darkened to a muddy brown, the Velkari equivalent of a blush, and his movements had become jerky with anxiety. "Dismissed," Thros barked. "Except you, Kivran. You will repeat the entire sequence until you achieve perfection." The other cadets filed away toward the barracks, casting backward glances at their struggling clutchmate. Kivran stood alone in the center of the training ground, his small frame dwarfed by the vast expanse of durasteel. Jara approached the observation console where Thros was recording performance metrics. "Tough on the young one," she commented. "He must learn." Thros replied, his voice hard. "The weak do not survive their first deployment. Better he learns now than dies later." "And if he never learns because you've broken his confidence first?" Thros's head snapped toward her, his pupils contracting to slits. "Humans do not understand our ways. We have bred warriors for 10,000 cycles. Your species still celebrates participation in failure." Jara smiled, the expression not reaching her eyes. "We also took our planet from predators that hunted us in the dark. We didn't do it by breaking our young. We did it by teaching them to think." She walked onto the training ground before Thros could respond. Kivran had begun the sequence again, his movements mechanical and lifeless. He was going through the motions without understanding them, his fear overriding his instinct. "Kivran," Jara called out. The cub froze mid-step, his tail coiling defensively. "Commander, you're thinking too much. Sergeant Thros says I do not think enough. He's wrong." Jara stopped a few meters away, respecting the Velkari's personal space. "You're so busy worrying about the next move that you're not living in the current one. Your body knows what to do, you just need to trust it." Kivran's head tilted, confusion evident in the angle of his neck frills. "I do not understand." "Watch me." Jara moved into the starting position of the defensive pattern. Her movements were different from the Velkari, less fluid, more angular. But she flowed through the sequence with the confidence of countless hours of practice. When she finished, she returned to the starting position. Now you. But this time, don't think about Thros watching. Don't think about your clutchmates. Just feel the movement, but trust me. Something in Jara's tone made the cub straighten. He moved into position, and this time something was different. His movements weren't perfect, but they were more natural, more instinctive. He was halfway through the sequence when his fear caught up with him. Jara could see it in the sudden tension in his shoulders. She caught his eye and winked. It was such a human gesture, so utterly alien to Velkhari culture, that Kivran's brain stuttered. For a fraction of a second, his overthinking mind completely blanked, and in that moment of perfect emptiness, his body took over. He completed the sequence flawlessly, his movements flowing like water. When he finished, Kivran stood completely still, his amber eyes wide with disbelief. I did it. You did. Jara turned to leave, then paused. Kivran, you were never the problem. The drill was just missing one thing. What thing? Joy. Jara smiled. Up there in the black between stars, fear will get you killed. But joy? Joy makes you want to survive. Remember that. She walked back toward the observation deck where Thros stood watching, his tail perfectly still, the Velkhari equivalent of shocked silence. Humans, he muttered. Yeah, Jara agreed. We're unpredictable like that. Behind them, Kivran began the sequence again, and this time his movements carried something new, not just precision, but purpose. The other cadets watching from the barracks windows saw it too, and slowly, inexorably, the rigid culture of the Velkhari military began to shift, changed by a single wink from a species that refused to let fear be the only teacher. Humanity had come to the stars not because they were the strongest or the fastest, but because they understood something fundamental. Warriors weren't born in fear. They were born in the moments when someone believed in them enough to make them believe in themselves.